welcome to another episode of Braxus Photography Fun. Well, today we're going to go into my camera collection. It's a video that I've made in the past, but I removed them all quite a while ago, and I thought it'd be a good time to do an update in regards to my camera collection and just kind of show what I do use these days for camera gear. And of course what I would like to get in the future as well. And we're going to go into some video clips of cameras that I used to have in the past as well. And we're going to talk a little bit all of that today, and just kind of give you an idea that I'm basically a collector of cameras. I don't specifically stick with just one camera, but I like to use multiple cameras on shoots at times. If I do go out and shoot a simple shoot, I'll bring my Fuji X-H2, which is what I'm shooting this video on now. But sometimes I'll bring a film camera, which will be usually a medium format camera, or if I'm really wanting to shoot a lot of shots and not too concerned about the image quality, I'll bring my 35mm gear. So anyway, let's get right to it and go into my collection. Now, on this part of the shelf, I have my 35mm gear. It's basically all my manual use cameras. There's really nothing here that has autofocus, but we'll go into that a little bit. For starters, get that one up a little bit. There we go. We've got the ever familiar Pentax K1000. Now this is a camera that I used in my high school days. I basically shot with it for school pictures and annual work and that kind of thing. And we also used this camera during photography classes that I took in high school as well. Fully manual camera. It's got manual focus, manual aperture, manual shutter speed. You manually wind the film advance. You manually rewind the film when it's finished. And pretty basic little camera. I've got a 50mm 1.4 on this one. I'd like to get the f1.2 lens for this camera down the road. The reason for that is I want that shallow depth of field, and apparently it's also a really sharp lens with some really nice bokeh as well. So yeah, that concludes the K1000. There we go. In behind it, we have a half frame camera. Now, I had an Olympus Pen FT in the past. I sold it not long after buying it because I just wanted to experiment with half frame. But around the same time I bought this camera, I took a risk on it at the time. It wasn't known whether this camera was functioning. And of course, this camera does need repair. I think the shutter is stuck on it, so it's not operating that way. But it's got a 30mm lens on it at f1.7, so it's a fairly sharp little lens. Apparently it's sharper than the Olympus lenses, of course. Uses a rangefinder kind of framing, of course. You know, you've got your manual wind, your manual rewind. Pretty basic little camera. I'll show what the inside looks like. You can see the half frame vertical image in the frame section. And yeah, so it's a really neat little camera. One day I'll get it fixed and maybe I'll start using it. The only reason I don't like shooting half frame too much is because of the time it takes to scan the film. You have to use my scanner at 10,000 DPI when scanning up half frame images, because you half the resolution out of that and you get 5,000 DPI as a result, and it's not really a lot of resolution to play with when you've got you know, an image on a negative. So there is that. And this is one of the first, if I can just get that out of there. There we go. Got lots of little plastic things here. I'll just try and get them out. There we go. This is my mom's old camera. She bought this brand new Canon AE1 back in 1983. I still have the original invoice receipt from this camera. She didn't use it too often because she found it hard to focus after some years because her eyesight wasn't the best at that point. So at some point I started using this camera in the mid-80s when I was home, and you know, I got to take quite a few rolls on it at the time. And she just basically stopped using it later in the 80s. She went back to her 110 camera, and yeah, it's unfortunate because, you know, the quality out of this thing is way better than 110. But of course, I did inherit this camera off of her in the late 90s. She gave it to me at the time, and unfortunately my Canon T90, not this one but one I had previously, was failing on me, and I didn't really have a working 35mm camera. So my mom gave me this, and I was using this for a few years. The shutter release button ended up failing on this during a really important shoot with a girl that I knew from when she used to drop off her films at the photo lab I used to work at, and I asked her to do a photo shoot with her. During that shoot, the shutter button failed and I couldn't finish off the roll. Very embarrassing thing. I had to drive her back home, and she wasn't too impressed with me that particular day. But the beauty of it is I was able to get this camera fixed. It is working again, and we ended up doing a second photo shoot where I ended up using some medium format gear during that shoot. So always a silver lining at the end of the rainbow, that kind of thing. So that one did work itself out. Now I'm going to go on to one of my favorite 35mm cameras, and if I can just get this put back on the shelf without dropping anything. There we go. Now, this is a Canon T90. I bought my first one of these back in 1988, brand new. I had that camera for about a decade and a half. The known issue with these cameras is if you don't exercise the shutter, it ends up seizing up on you, and basically you end up having issues trying to use the camera in the future. Back in the day, the known fix for that freezing shutter with the EE error sign in the LCD panel would be to replace the shutter, and I ended up having to do that with my Canon. And shortly thereafter using it, it failed again, so it's a known issue with these cameras. So really great camera. It is a very heavy camera for 35mm, very robust camera. A lot of fun to use. It's got quite a lot of features and options on this camera, including multiple frame, like you got a high and low shutter speed, or winder I should say, and you've got a 2 and 10 second self timer. You've got multiple exposure where you can take more than one shot on the same frame. Really neat little features. And yeah, and it's got a really neat metering capability in this camera. It's even got a spot meter where if you press the button down, you can hit the spot meter on a certain thing in the shot, and then do another one and another one, and it'll average it all out for you. So this is the only camera that I've owned that does that. The only way to get that capability is to use a handheld spot meter and get that kind of capability, but just give you an idea here. Yeah, So it's a really neat little thing here, but I'm just gonna bring this down to f1.4, and you even have the capability to press this button in and see what the stop down aperture looks like in the shot to check your depth of focus. Really neat features. So yeah, a great camera to use. You got multiple modes. You got aperture priority, shutter priority, which is, basically aperture priority is not that common on the manual Canon cameras, but this one had it, and it's just, yeah. Let's see if we can get this thing to go here. So fairly fast shutter winder in this thing. It does, I think, up to 4 to 5 frames in a second. So it's got a really fast winder. It's probably a good thing I'm exercising this thing too, because it hasn't been used for a while. So yeah, I'll just correct that again. There we go. So, and of course you've got an on-off switch as well, so you don't drain the battery. And the beauty of it is it uses basically 4 AA batteries in it, so they're easily replaced if you're out on the road. So really great little camera. I'd recommend one of these if you can find one that's working. Just remember to keep using the camera from time to time to exercise that shutter. Okay, so we're gonna go on to medium format now. This here is it is literally my favorite film camera of all the cameras that I use. I've also used the version 1 of the Pentax 6.7, but this is the version 2. I like the version 1 as well. It's what I started with when I started using the 6.7 format, so I'm very familiar with it. My plan is to get another 6.7 Pentax 6.7 version 1 to complement this camera here, so I can have one camera for black and white, one for color, and that way I'm not restricted to having to blow off the roll and take it out and put the other roll in, just so I can get the same shots on black and white or color. But this camera has a bit of a story. I bought it in 2012, 2014, thereabouts, and I had it for a number of years. I sold it back in 2022 to a camera store. There was known issue with this camera at the time, and unfortunately they ended up having nothing but problems with this camera after I sold it to them. It went through multiple owners, multiple repairs to try and get the thing fixed. And there really is only one place in all of North America you can get this camera fixed legitimately anyway. And that is basically a camera store in Oregon, and they were the ones that repaired this camera like 3 times. But that being said, I bought this camera back about 4 or 5 months ago because I felt guilty about them dealing with the issues with this camera, and I wanted to take it off their hands. And luckily it's been working good. The last repair they had done on it actually fixed the issue with the shutter. It had a bit of a shutter drag problem, and of course that was causing a part of the frame to be darker than the rest. And you know, they fixed the magnets in this camera. They rebuilt them from what I heard, and fixed a few of the shutter curtains as well. So that's all been taken care of, and actually I have taken quite a few rolls on this camera since owning it again, and it seems to be fine. I've had no issues with it, so I'm really happy about that. I offered to pay for the repairs to the camera store that they had to do on it, but they said no, so I had to let it go. But and it almost got to the point where I had to sell this camera again to get out of a financial bind. But I mean, these cameras go for about $2,000 to $3,000 US, in some cases 4,000 Canadian. This one doesn't have the AE prism on it. It's just got, you know, a regular prism on it. Actually, the prisms on the version 1 do fit on the version 2 of the Pentax X7, as long as it doesn't have the metered prism from the version 1 on it. That does not work on this camera. But just to keep costs down, I put a cheap pentaprism finder on it so I could use it. I did have this finder on it, which goes on as well, but you have to look down like this, and it's a really awkward way of shooting for me. I don't like shooting pictures that way off of this camera. I prefer looking straight ahead and aiming in the direction I want to be, and seeing exactly how things are going to look in the shot. So there's that. So in the time being, I'm using this camera with a secondary light meter, whether it's bringing my a LAN 7 down here, or bringing a light meter of some sort, or another camera that's got a light meter in it. In a couple of cases, I've used the app on my cell phone as the light meter to try and get some readings off of that. But eventually I do want to get the AE prism on this camera again. It did have it when I sold it to them, but unfortunately they had to sell the AE prism off of this camera to help fund some of the repairs it had to do. And it's unfortunate, but it's just a fact of life. You know, they gotta pay for those bills that racked up on this camera while they had it in their ownership. But favorite camera, I prefer to use this camera over anything else. It is very clunky to use, very heavy camera. It does a lot of vibration when the shutter goes off. We'll just do that. Yeah, just see if we can get this thing to go off. Yeah, there we go. And I've got no film in here, so very loud shutter on this thing, as many will know. This camera has gained a lot of popularity these days because people love shooting with it, and it goes for a good pretty penny, especially the version 2. The version 2 is the one that's sought after. Keep in mind, the version 2 does not like being in moist weather where there's a lot of humidity. It will affect the magnets in this camera, and you could possibly do some damage to the shutter and electronics inside this camera, because it's not sealed in any way or shape or form. So you want to keep moisture and humidity out of this camera. So that is another reason why I want to get another version 1 of the Pentax X7, so I could use that in the winter and use this in the summer. That way I'm not restricted in case I want to shoot some film. In the meantime, I'm building slowly up a lens collection for the Pentax X7. I've got a 300mm behind. On the camera itself, it's got the 135 macro. I do want to get the 105 lens again, and definitely a 55mm, and then I'll fill in the blanks for other lenses like a 75mm and so on and so forth. I do want to get a 200 as well. That seems to be a good focal range for some particular shots. But yeah, I got to rebuild the lens collection on that one. Another camera that I've had multiple versions of is the Pentax 645. Now this is the first version. You know, it just basically, yeah, it's manual focus. I did have the 645N for a while. My plan is to get another one of those down the road because my eyes aren't what they used to be, and autofocus helps in a lot of ways. So the 645N is on my list, and then I'll keep this one as well. This camera has been failing me the last few shoots that I've done with it. For some reason the shutter is freezing up and it's not firing, but it takes a little exercising to get it to work, and eventually it will fire. But I gotta figure out what to do with this camera. It's probably gonna need to go in for a CLA because it is old and it just needs a little bit of TLC. But I like using the 645 format as well. The fact, excuse me, the fact that you get 15 to 16 shots per roll. The image size is about twice as big as 35 millimeter, but you still retain some of that medium format quality. If you could call it the sensor size, which is the film, but the sensor size is still bigger on this than any of the GFX and Hasselblad medium format cameras out there. Those are technically crop sensor medium format cameras. But yeah, just on a side note, the GFX 100 megapixel cameras, those surpass pretty much almost anything on the market today as far as the image resolution, unless you get a phase one with 150 megapixel back on it. But I did have the GFX15F and I compared it against the 6.7 pictures that were scanned up on a Kodak 500, I think it is, and basically the images were on par with each other. Some were better than others depending on what the shot was, so neither format really won in that case. But it's amazing that a GFX camera will compete with a 6x7 camera where the frame size is way bigger. But anyway, get another one of these things, 645N. I'd like to get the 645D as well, just because it's got a CCD sensor in it. But I don't know when I'll get that, if I will at all. That is the camera that's in the back of my mind. They still go for around 2,000 Canadian these days, and they are, you know, a lot older technology now. But I'd really like to see what a medium format CCD sensor can do. Probably still couldn't compete with a GFX camera in terms of the color, I would think, but be curious to see. Anyway, I'm gonna put this one back. And another medium format camera that I have is a Holga. Now everyone's familiar with this camera. It's basically a plastic point and shoot. I mean, the lens on it is plastic, for crying out loud. I've got mine set to 645, but you can set it to 6x6 as well. And yeah, it's pretty basic little camera. It's basically like a point and shoot disposable camera. It works the same way, but this uses 120 film. And nothing too special about these things. You have very limited settings on these cameras, so you can only use it in certain conditions. I think there is a bulb setting on this as well, I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't shoot this camera very often because I like my images to be sharper than what this produces. But for an effect, or just to go out and have some fun, you know, I will take this out on occasion. Now, here we have a Zeiss Icon Netar. This is the 6x9 version. I wanted a 6x9 camera. Of course, you know, the lens on this doesn't compete with today's modern lenses, of course, but for what it was, for a camera that was produced in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the lens isn't actually too bad on this thing. It actually produces a sharp result for its time period. I mean, the coatings on the lens are probably not all that great, but you know, it can produce a nice contrasty image for what it is. People say these lenses have character, which is why they like to shoot with them. You know, it's a folder, so this folds up and makes it nice and compact. I just keep it open for display, but it's pretty basic setting. It's like using a large format lens where you have to set everything by hand manually, and you've got your your manual focus with the zone focusing, of course. With these cameras, if you buy them, you have to make sure that the bellows doesn't have any light leaks, because that can be an issue where you can run into issues with pinholes in the bellows, and then you've got a light leak on your film. But yeah, so neat little camera. Haven't used it too often, just hadn't had a need to really. And on the topic of medium format cameras, I forgot to mention that I used to own the GW690 Fuji cameras, the 6x9 film, 120 film cameras, and I have plans to get those again. Those were the GSW690 and the GW690. I'll probably be getting both of those again. Prices aren't too bad on those at this time, so probably next year or maybe the year after I'll be looking at getting those cameras back into my system again. They don't have any light meters, they don't have removable lenses on them, but really beautiful lenses on them for what they are, and they have sort of like a 40 millimeter full frame type of view out of the regular camera, the GW690, and really it's one of my favorite focal lengths is the 50 mil, so the 40 mil should be completely fine to use with the GW690. Another camera that is not anywhere on my shelf. I've never owned it ever in my system, but the movie Matters of the Heart, which is a film that I hopefully would like to produce in the next few years, depending on if I can get the locations locked down and then hire actors and get the funds to do everything and get everything worked out with everything. If that all goes ahead, I would like to get the Blackmagic cameras. I was initially looking at the Blackmagic Pixis 12K. Yeah, it's a really beautiful camera. My whole purpose behind all that was to basically finalize the film in 8K resolution and put it up on YouTube, maybe have it recorded to a film out to get a film print made off of it, or basically just down res it to 2K or even 4K to have shown in a theater in digital projection. But I'm thinking if I can swing it, I'd like to actually skip the Pixis 12K and go directly up to the Ursa 17K. Now, the 17K camera is ideally the format for me. It's a 2.2 to 1 aspect ratio, and that's perfect for large format motion picture film, which is 65 mil, and then it's duped over to 70 mil for a film print. But the quality off the 17K, I've seen the images off of some video clips, and it's just got such a depth to the image, really large format kind of depth for motion picture kind of shooting, and it's a really beautiful camera. 17K is definitely more than enough for most cases. You can down res it to even half that and still get a decent 8K image out of it. So there's that. But I don't know if Blackmagic will mind me showing some video clips that they posted, but I'd like to show a few video clips off the Ursa 12 or the Ursa 17K camera, just to show really how beautiful the images really are. So let's take a brief look at that now. is a Graflex speed graphic camera. This is the 4x5 version. I've had this camera for about 20-25 years now. It's probably one of my longest owned cameras and still in my collection. You know, like I don't shoot large format very often. It's just something that, you know, it just takes a lot of time to set up shots and that kind of thing. And it's a lot of work to use these cameras to get the shot. And you know what? The images I get off of this thing aren't really all that much better than what I get off my Pentax 6.7. So, you know, it's fun to shoot with these from time to time, and they do produce really lovely results. But for my uses, it just, yeah, it just, you know, like pretty basic little camera. You know, you pull it open to get it into the range for focusing. You focus with this here. Your settings are on the lens, as all large format cameras are. You can use this for framing or this for framing, but you also have a ground glass for framing as well. So that's what I typically use because I want to make sure my focus is correct. And yeah, great little camera as a result. I had this thing have a very minor CLA done on it a couple years ago because it needed some cleanup from some moisture damage, but it didn't really have a full CLA done on it, but it's been working good. I haven't had too many issues. The shutter on this lens here needs to be CLA'd because whenever it's really cold weather, it freezes up and it doesn't work. It's probably the grease or something in the lens that just needs to be cleaned out and replaced. But really great little camera. Just, you know, I should probably try and shoot with it more than I do. So there's that. I do have a few lenses. Yeah. I sold a few of the lenses that I had previously because I just wasn't using them. But right here, I've got a Fujinon SW 90mm. This is a wide angle, of course. It's got a bit of wear on the inside of the lens where the coating on the black coating wore off. But I bought it fairly cheap and it's been useful in those wide shots. Unfortunately, I don't use it too often. And my other one is a Fujinon 180mm 5.6. This is a neat little lens. I know Andy bought one himself. I do like the Fuji lenses. They tend to be fairly cheap and inexpensive for large format, but you know, you can get some decent lenses for the format, and you know, it doesn't break the bank to actually basically you know, get some decent lenses. Now this is a camera that I bought in the last several months. I have used it a few times now. I do like the results this thing produces, but this is a Kodak Instamatic 500. It's a 126 format camera. You basically just, you know, you open up the back, you put the cartridge in there, slide it, and it's got a neat little winder on it. You just wind it off, hit the shutter. A really snappy little camera, really well made for the mid 60s. You've got manual aperture, manual shutter speed, zone focusing, of course. You even have a flash hot shoe on this thing, which many cameras in 126 don't have. Pretty simple viewfinder, of course. But the reason I bought this camera is because I wanted to see what the 126 format was capable of with a sharp lens, and the lens on this thing is pretty spectacular. for the 126 format. My very first camera that I ever got was a Kodak X15F, and I got that in the late 70s from my mother at Christmas time. It was my very first camera. I still own that camera today. I've thrown a few rolls through it in the last 10 or 15 years, but not a very good lens on that camera. Everything looks soft and fuzzy, and there's just no detail in the image. But you know, for the time I was using it when I was, you know, like 8 or 9, 10 years old, basically it was like using a disposable camera back in the day. But this camera really shows off of what 126 can do. It's a square image. It's like shooting medium format 6x6, but in a smaller film. And it is a lot of fun to use. Of course, getting 126 film is really difficult these days. You really got to search it out. There are adapters where you can put 35mm full frame film inside of a 126 cartridge and use it. But the problem with that is that the sprockets from that film get in the way of the image area on 126. You lose part of the image as a result. So that's why I search out true 126 film, however expired it really is. I'll put that one back. Now, here is one of the 35mm cameras I like to use. It's also one of my favorites for 35mm, the Canon Elan 7. It's known as the KISS something or other in other continents, that kind of thing. But really great camera. The light meter on this thing is spectacular. It's got a better light meter than the EOS 1V. That's probably the one thing this camera's got going for it. The one failure point in these cameras is this cheap little plastic hook on the door. It can break off and then your door doesn't snap shut. It's a failure issue with these cameras. It happened with the first one of the Elan 7 that I bought. That camera was a camera that I bought back in 2003 and I still own it today. This one here is my backup Elan 7. This one has been having issues with focusing in certain conditions and that kind of thing. It's not doing so well with close-up focus for some reason. I gotta get this camera checked out and figure out what's wrong with it. But for the most part, most shots turn out okay. You just gotta be very careful with the images you take on it. And being that I have Canon EF lenses for the Elan 7, I can use them on the R series cameras as well with the adapter. My plan is to maybe possibly get a Canon R7 Mark II, depending on what the specs are ended up being on that. The reason I want to get that is so I can do full moon shots and moon shots on that with the 800mm telephoto lens that they sell. And of course it would be useful to have it for backup video as well, even though it may only do 6 or 7K video instead of 8K. I was hoping it would do 8K video with 40 megapixel sensor, but it seems to be they changed their mind in that and went back to 32, 33 megapixels. We'll have to see what the R7 Mark II actually ends up being when it's released on the market. So, and I've got, you know, a few lenses for the Fuji X system, of course. My plan is to get back into Fuji GFX at one point. I'd like to get the 100 megapixel versions, whether it's the 100S or the 100 Mark II. The 100 Mark II is the ideal camera for me. It does 8K video as well. But unfortunately, it's just too expensive right now, and it's not high on my priority list. and finding used ones at a decent price for that matter, those two things go against each other, and it's very rare that you find a GFX 100 version 2 come out in the market used. So there's that. You see the occasional 100S on the used market, $3,000 to $4,000 Canadian is what they go for here. Doable for my range. Either that or I might get another 50S too, which is a camera I owned previously, but there's not much of a jump up from that and my other Fuji X camera, which does 40 megapixels. And I do have, I'm not going to take it off the shelf here, but I do have a Canon EOS, yeah, just the original Rebel camera, the Canon EOS Rebel, the first version that does 6 megapixels in the shots. Haven't really used it. I was going to do a comparison between that and a newer DSLR, of course, and maybe some cell phone images to see how much cell phones have improved compared to these old cameras. I wanted to see how the color was between this digital Rebel and the R7, but I sold the R7 quite a long time ago. That is a camera that I used to own as well. And I have here a Elmo Super 8 camera. I've got 4 Super 8 Elmo cameras. They're all the sound versions. This one is the mid-range model, but this one has the sharpest lens out of any Elmo camera. That's the reason why I've got it on my shelf. I plan to use it for a movie down the road, possibly. We'll have to see. So anyway, let's go into some video clips of my previous cameras that I used to own, and let's take a look at that now. Now, here we have an Ansco 8x10 camera. I just purchased this one a year ago. It's still not able to be used yet. I don't have everything I need for it yet to get it to be operable. I am working towards that, of course, but I do have some films and some lenses and a few other things for it so far. Basically, I'd love to see what the results are going to be off of this thing when I do get it operational, and it should be a lot of fun. Being that I've worked with large format 4x5 in the past, this shouldn't be too much of a stretch to get to be able to use it. I'd be curious to see how it differs from the smaller format, large format cameras, of course. Now on to medium format. Medium format is my format of choice these days. It's not too big to be unwieldy. It produces sharp results out of the lenses, and it has quite a few shots on a roll, whereas large format you have to load each slide, of course. This has got to be my favorite medium format camera, the Pentax 6.7 II. I have owned the 6.7 version 1 back in the day. I love that camera. It was great to use, never had any issues with it. Another medium format camera that I love using is the Pentax 645N. There's an N2 version as well, which is slightly refined from this one. This one is a really big improvement over the original 645, which I've owned in the past. This one you can actually get 16 negatives, or 16 shots on a negative instead of 15, which is the usual for 645. The shutter dials on the top, motor winder on the back, and autofocus on the lenses that have autofocus. If you use a manual focus lens on this camera, it will help you dial that in. It'll give you a beep when you've got it in focus, so it makes it a lot easier for that. And with my eyes changing as they have in the past, it makes it a lot easier to focus these days. So I use this one quite often as well, more so than the 6.7, just because of the fact that I can get more shots per roll, and this one is pretty close to 35mm you can get. Here we have a Yashica A TLR camera. This one is a 6x6 format. This one is pretty basic as well. You have a shutter similar to large format cameras. You set the aperture and the shutter speed to what you need. You cock it and you press the shutter button down, and away you go with the shot. You have your upper lens for viewing and framing your shots, You can shoot it this way, it doesn't really make any difference. It's a square format, so you end up with the same result. And you've got your focus on the side here and your winder right behind it, and a little window on the back to tell you where you've advanced your film to. Haven't seen the results off of this camera yet. I bought it a year ago for almost next to nothing. I was just trying to get rid of it, and I put some Tri-X in it, and I'm still using that roll of Tri-X at this time, so I'm curious to see what the results are going to be like it, but it should be interesting. I'm told the lens on this camera is not as sharp as their other TLRs. We'll have to see what the results will be for that. Here's a Yashica RTS. This one takes Contax Zeiss lenses, if you should have some. This one's just currently got a Yashica lens on it, which you can mount on these cameras. Yashica and Contax share the same lens mount. Basically, this one, I haven't used it yet, but I've always kept it readily available. It's got a new battery in it, of course. This one has all your shutter speed settings on the top, your winder for there. This one's got a built-in winder on the bottom, of course, motor winder. And I'd like to get a 50mm Zeiss lens for this thing, but it's just not something that's a priority right now, so I just let it sit. And here we have one of my last pieces of 35mm gear. This is my Canon SureShot 115U version 2. I bought this camera back in 2008 to go on a long trip, and I used it for black and white pictures to make sure that I could get some black and white shots along with the color, and it was a compact enough camera to store in the bag with the other camera. I haven't used this camera too much since that time. I do have a roll of F15F loaded into it, but it's been a few years since I've actually shot on this camera. I had intentions on keeping it in my car to basically get those shots when I want some black and white pictures on some trips on the road. It needs a new battery. That should be simple enough to fix. It's been a little stiff in operation today since it's been sitting for so long, but it loosened up fairly nicely, and it still works. I do have a couple other Canon SureShot cameras, a 135U and a 150U, I believe. Not sure where those cameras are at this time. I have to look for them. They haven't been used yet. They were intentions of going on car trips and other long trips as well when I couldn't find this particular camera, but I did find this one again, and it's of course available for use again. So that is my... Well guys, a bit of a switch up. In the last month I sold all my Nikon gear and switched back to Canon. Canon was the original brand I stuck with over many years and stopped using it in 2012, and I went to Nikon at that point. And because of what Nikon has been doing with their updates on their cameras, I wasn't feeling too confident they would be coming out with a camera I want to buy in the future. So I went and switched back to Canon, and this is the end result. I bought two Canons. The first one here is a 5DS. This one is a 50 megapixel camera. It's got a little bit more resolution than what I got out of my Nikon D800. Not quite as good with dynamic range and low light situations, but it's got the megapixels that competes with my medium and large format film frames. So this one should be with me for a little bit of a while. I'll probably update the cameras in the future to mirrorless at some point, but for now I'm sticking with EF lenses. And we'll see how this little charmer does for me, and how good the shots look compared to the D800 that I had. Let's take a look at the 90D, which is my last digital camera. And here is my last Canon camera, the 90D. Just picked this one up brand new this month, and it's been a good little camera. I bought it basically for telephoto shots, like moon shots, wildlife, that kind of thing, or long distance landscape pictures. 32 megapixels, fairly high for an APS-C camera. Basically, it won't be used a whole lot compared to the 5DS, but this one has its place for some shots. It's also going to be my main camera for recording videos. This one does 4K, whereas the 5DS only does 1080p. And I shoot my GFX50R camera, which is also from Fuji. And let's take a look at that here. This is a 51 megapixel medium format camera. It's technically a crop sensor medium format because it's smaller than 645 for the sensor size. I've been using it with my Pentax 645 lenses just because I do not have any GFX lenses at the moment. Working towards that down the road. Unless I change systems again, of course. Depends on what Sony comes up with medium format. Might be going that route if the prices aren't too bad, but for the time being I'm sticking with the GFX. This is one great camera to use. The colors out of it are just so beautiful. The tones that you get out of the black and white files are even better. It just has a certain look that can't be replicated with smaller sensor cameras that I've noticed. It just really clean files. I just love the files off of this thing. It's just great image quality that you can get out of medium format. So I hope you enjoyed all those video clips of past and present cameras that I used to own. It's forever a changing thing. The cameras that I'd like to get in the future, of course, are probably way in the future down the road. I forgot to mention one of the medium format cameras I used to own that I'd like to get again is the 6x9 Fujica cameras, the GW690 and the GSW690. Those are also on my list to get down the road, but of course, you know, that's way in the future at this point. Not on a priority list to get. I'd like to buy back some of the cameras I had to sell over the last 5 years because of finances, but I don't want to have such a huge collection again that I just never use half the cameras I've got. So yeah, I am a collector. Some may even say I'm a hoarder. You can look at it your way. It is a hobby of mine that I love to do, so you can look at it that way. I do try to use all these cameras at some point, so I keep them used so that they don't freeze up. But there's some cameras, of course, like the Pentax X7 II, where I will tend to gravitate towards it before anything else. And if I'm shooting digital, I'll use my Fuji X-H2. I'd like to get back into a GFX for that, of course. And yeah, but hard to say. Anyway, give me a comment in the comment section below if you have something to say. Again, this is just a collection of cameras. You know, having 20-30 cameras in a collection, you know, may seem to be a bit extreme, but I'm a collector, maybe a borderline hoarder for that matter. But, you know, it's something that I love to do, that I love to use. And each camera has its specific uses and, you know, basically for whatever type of shooting you want to do for the day. And when I go out and shoot, I tend to bring more than one camera, sometimes 2 or 3 or even 4 cameras with me, just because I like the variety and having backups as well, because I have, as I mentioned earlier, a camera fail on me during a shoot, and it was really not a good thing to have happen on a very important shoot with somebody that you had interest in, of course. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Leave me a thumbs up if you like, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Well, thank you for watching, and aye and goodbye. Eh?